times immemorial, the charm of flowers has captured humanity. Poets have sung their praises. A gift of flowers or an exchange of garlands is more eloquently expressive of human feelings than any words can be. Dame Nature has indeed endowed flowers with a multiplicity of attractions, an exquisitely beautiful form and structure, honey and perfume, and above all, lovely colors, though flowers can be charming even if they have no color. The number of species of flowering plants known at the present time is about 250,000, far exceeding the sum total of all other species of plant life, even including such lowly forms of vegetation as algae, fungi, and mosses. This overwhelming predominance of flowering plants is proof of the efficiency of flowers as agencies for the multiplication of the plant and the perpetuation of its species. The plant world thus provides us with a vast variety of floral material. Not satisfied, however, with the flowers as created by nature, man has sought to improve on her handiwork. By selection and crossing, new varieties have been developed which flower more profusely, have larger blooms, and exhibit a wider range of colors and patterns of color. These products have been received with enthusiasm, and a great industry devoted to the production of flowers to suit all tastes has grown up. Each particular type of flower has its own special group of admirers and its own publications to meet their requirements, as for example, orchids, roses, chrysanthemums, and more recently, the African violets. It will be obvious from what has been said that the subject of this evening's talk is one of great human interest, and that the material needed for the study of floral colors is available in unlimited variety. It will be readily understood also that if we wish to discover the real nature and origin of floral colors, the observations should be made with the living flowers and not with materials extracted therefrom by mechanical pressure or chemical treatment. Surprisingly enough, however, there appear to have been no attempts made so far to study floral colors in this manner. The virgin field of research, which thus presented itself, has been worked over by me during recent months, and results have been obtained which are of extraordinary interest and importance. This talk is intended to convey some idea of the new knowledge which has emerged from the investigations. When we look at a flower, what enables us to perceive its color is the light which reaches it from some external source of illumination. This light falling on the flower penetrates more or less deeply into the material of the petals and emerges again with its spectral character modified by reason of the absorbing pigments present in them. Finally, it reaches the eye of the observer. The visual impression which it produces will necessarily depend on the inherent characters of the perceptual mechanism of our eyes. Hence, the study of floral colors serves a dual purpose. It serves to reveal the nature of the material responsible for the distinctive color of any particular flower or class of flowers. It also reveals the role played by the receptive mechanism of our eyes in perceiving and recognizing such color. The program of study thus indicated can be pursued by very simple methods. All that we need to do is to examine the light which emerges from a flower held in sunlight or bright daylight through a portable spectroscope. We may observe either the light which comes through the petals of the flowers or the light which is reflected or scattered at the surface of the petals. The results in both cases are generally similar, but not necessarily so with all flowers. The simplicity of the method enables a great number of different flowers to be rapidly examined. This has been done, and with the results observed in different cases are compared and correlated, certain general conclusions emerge, which I shall proceed to indicate. I may usefully begin by referring to the observations made with the flowers of the well-known tree known to botanists as Lagerstroemia flos reginae, and more popularly as the pride of India. This tree bears great masses of magnificent flowers in the months of April to July each year, and then presents an extremely handsome appearance. Actually, there are two varieties of the tree, one bearing purple flowers and the other bearing flowers of a rose pink color. The behavior of the purple colored flowers is particularly significant and important. Spectroscopic examination shows the yellow region of the spectrum, which emerges from the flower, to be much weakened, while the rest of the spectrum shows no change. The pink variety shows a totally different behavior. The green region in its spectrum is greatly weakened, while the rest of the spectrum shows no change. Another tree, known botanically as Jacaranda mimosifolia, is famous all the world over for the wonderful display of color which it puts on during the months of March to May in each year. Its violet-blue flowers then come out in clusters, completely enveloping the tree, so much so that an avenue of the jacaranda at flowering time is an unforgettable sight. Spectroscopic examination reveals the origin of the blue color of its flowers to be a weak absorption in the yellow part of the spectrum, accompanied by another weak absorption in the orange red. Another well-known tree bears flowers of yellow hue, ranging from a pale yellow to a deep golden color. I may mention here the famous Peltophorum ferrugineum, which at flowering time appears as a great mass of golden blossoms, which later are replaced by the rusty red pods which give the tree its name. Spectroscopic study shows that the perceived color of yellow flowers results from the extinction of the violet and the blue parts of the spectrum by their petals, the rest of the spectrum coming through freely. Having mentioned some well-known flowering trees with which my listeners are probably familiar, I shall pass on to speak about the most beloved of all flowers, namely the rose. No other plant has received so much attention from horticulturists in their attempt to produce new varieties having desirable qualities. Several hundreds of such varieties of roses are known. To us in India, the most familiar roses are the sweet-scented blooms of the plant known familiarly as the Tanjore rose or the gulab, which grows vigorously and flowers most profusely at all times and is deservedly therefore the great favorite with gardeners. The color of its flowers is that traditionally associated with roses, namely a soft red. Numerous other roses are known whose color is a brighter red or scarlet or crimson. The question may then be asked, why is a rose red? The answer to this is furnished by the spectroscope. The red color arises from an extinction of the green part of the spectrum. The more complete the extinction of the green is, the redder is the rose. The surprising fact emerges from such observations that the blue and violet parts of the spectrum are present in the light which reaches our eyes, but they remain unperceived and apparently have no effect on the observed color. The flowers mentioned so far are a select few from amongst the many hundreds that have been examined by me. They have been singled out for the reason that their behavior is typical and serves to indicate how the floral colors more commonly observed arise. There are many other individual cases which deserve special mention by reason of the features of interest which they display. But I shall not dwell on such cases and will proceed instead to consider the results of the studies in their totality and indicate their significance. one fact emerges very clearly, and that is the extraordinarily important role played by the yellow sector of the spectrum in color perception. This is a relatively small part of the whole, hemmed in between the green and the red of the spectrum, but its presence or absence makes all the difference to the appearance of the flower. It is present in full strength in the spectra of all flowers whose colors range between a light yellow and a deep orange. These colors are luminous and the flower shows up very brightly amidst its surroundings. On the other hand, the yellow is weak or even completely absent in the spectra of all flowers that appear of a blue color or exhibit a purple hue in one or another of its various possible shades, ranging all the way from violet or blue at one end to red at the other. The luminosity of all such flowers in terms of absolute brightness is low, but they are extremely colorful. How are these facts to be explained? They are in basic conflict with the ideas regarding color composition and color perception which have been accepted for over a century and are current at the present time. An even more fundamental contradiction with those ideas is apparent in the phenomenon of masking or suppression of the visual effects of some parts of the spectrum by those of other and more luminous parts. This has been mentioned earlier, briefly, in relation to the observed color of roses, but it is a phenomenon which comes to notice in a great many cases. Summing up, one may say that while the study of the spectroscopic behavior of living flowers reveals much that is of interest in itself and points the way to further investigations on the absorbing pigments present in them, the results of such study are of even greater significance in relation to the physiology of vision and the mechanism of color perception. But this latter aspect of the matter would take us too far to permit of its being dealt with in the present talk.